Looking at Yan Xiaoshu's face, the others were secretly anxious, afraid that Yan Xiaoshu would not be able to speak a single sentence. In fact, Yan Xiaoshu's tiny heart had already started pounding. In the past, he did not believe that there were such people with more money than sense, but he had fully understood this statement today. However, he calmed down in a blink of an eye. After considering the situation, there was no one in this world that would fit that description, and it was obvious what the target of the other party was. A 2 billion investment, which he did not have to pay a single cent, yet would still be getting a 51% stake in the shares. This first fundraising round was equivalent to gifting him $1 billion directly. This was an attempt to buy him off with money. No, it was to buy a connection with Wang Zheng and Tita Star. Considering the current situation, the true value of his connections was far above the price of their investment. After a few days of interaction, he was confident that no one in front of him was clueless. Regarding this matter, I have to consider it. Brother Yan, why are you still hesitating? You definitely need help in dealing with such a major contract. We're after all old friends, unlike those that are following behind. Right, it is best to do business with like-minded people. Making money is secondary to us. What's important is to be happy. Everyone started speaking up at the same time, with varying persuasiveness. To be perfectly honest, Tyrant Su was actually enjoying these few days, as these B** stars were pulling all sorts of stunts to gain his approval. Noticing that the time to strike was right now, Yan Xiaoshu no longer held back. All right, I can handle this issue. However, there is a slight problem with the shares. The 51% that I hold does not solely belong to me, as I am also representing another party. Additionally, you need to give up another 5% for another company. OMG, Jasper asked. Oh, how did you know? Yan Xiaoshu was indeed a little surprised. Haha. Brother Yan, we've long wanted to meet with the talented designer. Some of our brothers here are mecha enthusiasts, and the most talented person to have emerged in these few years is Miss Yi Zisu. Jasper and the rest had anticipated such a problem, and was aware that nothing would be that easy. However, the other party's conditions were still within the limit of acceptability. Of course, the actual terms and minor details would be discussed by the lawyers of both parties. It was obvious that such issues were handled by professionals, and everyone had brought their own team along. When Little Lucky Star's team received the basic terms of the negotiations, they had almost fainted. The first feeling they had was whether they had been scammed. This was definitely the dealings of those who had too much money to spend. However, all of them were famous consortiums within the Milky Way. This should not be a con, right? But what was this situation? They forked out both the money and manpower, while they themselves did not have to lift a single finger. Currently, he had already been admired by the personnel in Little Lucky Star's company, but after arriving at Tita Star, the level of worship had reached another level. For most family businesses, the respect towards the founder would be the highest, while the successors would be treated half-heartedly. There were not many from the younger generation that could surpass the first. Without a doubt, Yan Xiaoshu was a miracle amongst miracles, with old Yan even becoming a logistics support personnel, yet he probably was the happiest logistics support in the whole world. While business was being discussed at one corner, everybody else was relaxing over here, continuing to drink and flirt around. Yan Xiaoshu naturally continued to act as a gentleman, sitting on the sofa and drinking a glass fruit wine. Who would have thought that after being unable to find a beauty at the very first meeting, he claimed to not be the type that fooled around. He had even graciously rejected the few gifts that were sent to him. This brother was simply a saint. At the same time, at the governor's mansion, Mu Sen was dealing with daily affairs. Such tasks were second nature to him, and he was rapidly getting accustomed to it. Humanity's culture was quickly accepted by these strategists. Of course, it was not a total acceptance, as on Tita Star, everything still revolved around the preservation of their own customs. The hardest issue to tackle was still the pressure on the supergravity mine. Although the current situation was at an equilibrium, the pressure from each individual country was not small at all. The deeper tribes are still skeptical, and many of them are refusing to listen to the orders of Lord Titan, especially Lucerne. The strategist from the hurricane sector was asking for help from Mu Senator. In fact, the Tita people were not completely united. More accurately, within Tita Star, There were still a number of tribes that had not joined the tribal alliance under Tita's Titan. They even had opposing views, believing that the cooperation between the tribes and the humans was an embarrassment, and were questioning the actions of the Titan. Mu Sen lightly smiled. Such a thing as war was impossible, as each and every inhabitant of Tita was precious. Even if there was a difference in opinion, there was only one solution, which was to let Rara Darai deal with it. This was not the first time, and Rara Darai was recently busy with similar matters. Understood, Titan will soon go over to meet Lucerne. Yes. Li Enqing nodded. This was his main purpose in coming here. Additionally, he still had another matter to discuss. Elder Mu Sen, Little Lucky Star Company has recently arrived at our hurricane sector to investigate. Are they trespassing too far? There was never a case that humans were allowed to enter this deep into the forbidden area. Li Enqing was unhappy with this decision. As a strategist, he was clear about the strength and insidiousness of humans. Cooperation was necessary, but most of the Tita people should still remain wary of them. Mu Sen gazed at Li Enqing. What do you think? I believe that a single land family is sufficient. As for the gratitude to Wang Zheng, we have already repaid him more than enough. Ada will forever be Ada, but humans are still humans. Li Enqing simply expressed his feelings. This was not limited to only him, but also the opinion of most of the strategists. Mu Sen was the representative of the Tita people, but the authority of the elders was also increasing. They represented the interests of the Tita people. The strategists were not puppets, and all of them had their own beliefs. If not for the influence of Titan, many of Mu Sen's ideas might not have been realized. Mu Sen sighed within his heart, his gaze resigned to his fate. No matter humanity or Tita, everyone was the same. The land family is only the start. We should plan further ahead. At the very least, there are still other options. Mu Sen calmly stated. The land family issue was only a small annoyance to the Tita people. If not for the presence of Lan Ling, the situation might have been drastically different. You're saying that we should choose Little Lucky Star to be the first. Would that be too overboard? They still do not have the qualifications. Mu Sen stood up. You guys look down too much on humans. There is a saying amongst humans, even if there are no long-term issues, there would still be short-term ones. We from the Tita Star should follow where the wind blows, especially right at the start, where the danger is at the highest. After giving the shares from the supergravity mine to Wang Zheng, Mu Sen was not hot-headed enough to only be concerned about repaying their gratitude. Li Enqing was not too surprised. He had never met someone from Tita in the past. This I understand, but that person is far too common. Mu Sen laughed. Recently, too many major figures had appeared, and many of the Tita people had been confused by them. When would you all stop being mesmerized by their outer appearances? Remember, we are Tita people, only our own beliefs will protect us. Li Enqing finally understood the hidden meaning of Mu Sen's words. What was strength? No matter on the inside or outside, only those that could grasp the opportunity that fate had given them would be the strongest, or else, so what if they were like the Lan family? Li Enqing respectfully bowed his head. Although Elder Mu Sen was not the highest authority within the association, he was undoubtedly the wisest in their current era. While Yan Xiaosu's plan had finally succeeded, Wang Zheng's match had also started. The third round had started simultaneously in all 5 sectors. The Huang grade Olivius was the first one to go up. Against a Zon grade Class 1 opponent, Olivius did not feel any pressure at all. It was obvious that his ability X had already reached the high grade C rank. That is to say, although he was a Huang grade, his ability X was sufficient for him to reach the Zon grade. In addition, his rich combat experience had far outstripped the average student, and this was the first time that the entire academy had met such a monster from Arbiter. If one was to say that Olivius was an outlier, then when Achilles from the moon defeated his opponent and advanced, everyone else was stunned. Against an opponent from the Dark Empire, Achilles took the initiative. Although a C-rank ability X was rather decent, but it still cannot be compared to those from a Zon Class 1 student. However, with his tyrannical combat techniques and experience, he had directly defeated his opponent in a domineering fashion, using a single silver spear to shock the world. Although Achilles' ability X had not reached the level of a Zon grader, his basic physical abilities was much higher. With his expertise in control and ever-changing movements, he was able to make up for the shortcomings of his X ability. Everyone was aware that although the strength of his output could be increased, technique and tactics were much harder to change. Without mentioning any other advantages, Achilles had already entered into the list for intensive training, just solely based on his performance. This was a genius that no one had ever seen before. A calm character, extraordinary ability, physical skills and ability X, this was definitely a talent. It could be said that the glory of the moon race could be seen from Achilles, who was once synonymous with the human elites. Lai Xin was disappointed that she had been eliminated. There was no issue with her Lai Flame technique, but the change in her ability X was still too little. She was unable to defend against the sheer strength of the opponent's ability X, but this had also shown here that all ability X had their own limits, and the final results would still rely on the skills of the pilot. In fact, this had made everyone breathe a sigh of relief. If the advancement of the Huang grade students were to become a common occurrence, the Zan grade students would have nowhere left to hide. The latter part of the competition was in full swing, and those that had advanced were all at the Zan grade. In the event that one of the 4 grade experts took to the stage, there would immediately be a round of cheers from the audience. This had continued all the way until Lear entered the stage. Lear was rather low profile in Black Tortoise Region's academy, totally different from his style on Earth. The Black Tortoise region was at the bottom of the elite academies, and the previous leaders had been eliminated, causing the instructors to feel the pressure. Other than Hukan still holding up their standards, the average level of the other Zan Class 1 students were all inferior to the other academies. Lear, being a Huang grade student, had surprisingly entered the 3rd round, was a type of consolation for the instructors. In fact, he was similar to Wang Zheng, or perhaps even better. Lear may be low profile in the Black Tortoise region, but he was deeply favored by his professor. For this fight, even Randolph's and Milo's professors had come over to watch, causing all 3 instructors from Black Tortoise to be a little depressed. When comparing their prestige to the other schools, they were indeed a little embarrassed. There were many students in the Huang grade within Black Tortoise, and they would of course be cheering for Lear. Due to his actions, no one was truly aware how strong he was. Compared with Jia Yuanhao, even though Lear was from Earth, he was still far more popular. Listening to the cheers of the students, Jia Yuanhao's face turned even uglier. He had previously proclaimed to be the best in the Huang grade in Black Tortoise, but in the end was eliminated in the 2nd round. Damn, this Lear's luck was too good, that bastard. Luo Fei was forever smiling, and every time he glanced at Jia Yuanhao, his smile would widen even further. What a naive guy. If it wasn't for him, Lear wouldn't be able to gather the people's hearts that quickly. Hey, if they were talking about manipulating other, Lear could be considered to be a master in that field, and could even start his own classes. Fatty sneaked a glance, and knew that this was his only time to vent a little. Every time he was reminded of Lear's orders, he felt that his future was indeed bleak. Being forced to advance in the competition, was Lear trying to kill him? Lear had entered the stage, and his opponent was a Zan Class 1 from White Tiger, Panga, an arbiter. On the whole, the arbiters who were able to enter into the Zan grades Class 1 could be considered a true elite. In the evaluation of Elite Academy, the special characteristics of arbiter was indeed flashy. Their spirit and murderous tendencies far outstripped other countries. Although they were still students, most of the arbiters who arrived at Elite Academy had already served in the military previously. An example would be Olivius. Not only had he served before, but in fact had a rather high rank. Panga had been in the academy for 3 years, rose to the Zan grade in the 2nd year, and was promoted to Class 1 at the end of the year. He was definitely a powerful figure. In the 5th section, due to the fact that none of the 4 great experts were seated here, it had been termed a lottery sector. Anyone had the possibility of winning. Thus the battles were also the most intense, as no one wanted to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially for someone like Panga. He was also a competitor amongst the top in the White Tigers Zan grade Class 1, and was even filtered into this section. If he missed this opportunity, he might as well kill himself. Panga, White Tiger region, Arbiter, Overlord. Lear, Black Tortoise region, Earth, Storm Swordsman. When Lear chose this strange mech, many of the spectators were unfamiliar with it. However, after the introduction, They rapidly realized that this was a mech that was produced by a small company on Earth, and it seemed that the sales were not high. Damn, I must be drunk too. This guy is also using an OMG mech. Zhang Shan appeared beside Luo Fei. Fatty, why are you even following this guy? Luo Fei laughed a little, I'm just a miserable guy. Zhang Shan rubbed his mouth. In fact, he rather liked this fatty, but somewhere along the line this guy had instead become lost in his path, and ended up following Lear. How's Lear's standards now? Will he be able to last 3 minutes? Zhang Shan had seen the opponent's details. An expert from Arbiter who dared to use the Overlord, it was evident that he was confident in himself. He won't be worse than Wang Zheng. Luo Fei faintly smiled. Shay, you don't have to brag to me. Zhang Shan evidently did not believe his words. Even if Lear had a few hidden tricks, how could he compare to Wang Zheng? He admitted that Lear may have an advantage in the past, but that was because he had started his training earlier than them. Not mentioning Wang Zheng, even Zhang Shan himself believed that he could take Lear on. Perhaps the chances of winning would not be 50-50, but at the very least it would be 40-60. Fatty wasn't affected by that statement. Do you want to make a bet? When Zhang Shan looked at the fatty's expression, he immediately woke up. Go away, your bro here is an upright person, and will never indulge in such vices. When Luo Fei saw that Zhang Shan was not being fooled, he was also helpless, as a free meal had just flown away from him. Recently, Lear had not been satisfied with his figure, saying that his stomach would cause a lot of wind resistance. His stomach was the only place that Luo Fei was satisfied with. Panga looked at his opponent coldly. The biggest advantage that the arbiters had was not underestimating their opponent. Whether they were ants or elephants, all of them would die. Overlord engine roared, its energy shield sending out a sharp crackling sound, and made the first move. The longsword of the Storm Swordsman was unsheathed. Although OMG was fundamentally a competitor to the Chronos family, this did not pose as a psychological block to Lear. He was a realist, and if the performance was good, he would use and own it. When Yi Zissou designed Wind God, he did not bother with it, but when Storm Swordsman came out, it had indeed attracted Lear's attention. It had caused Lear to be curious about a girl for the very first time. How did she design such a mech? In the face of Overlord charge, the gaze of Storm Swordsman still seemed to be on his own sword. It was not equipped with a laser blade, but was instead a specialized alloy, joined together by the unique supergravity minerals. The body of the blade was sleek, and had a unique charm that one could understand. In order to perfect this weapon, Yi Zissou had read countless information on cold weapons, and combined with the characteristics of the mech, finally deciding upon the final style. This type of detail was completely unrecognizable to the average user, but in the hands of the master, it was a completely different concept. The Overlord had descended, but the storm had started to rage. The alloy sword was swung at a high speed, and a deafening sound exploded outwards. However, right in the first clash, the difference between them could already be observed. Panga's spear had been deflected away, while Lear's Storm Swordsman blade had only been diverted slightly. The Storm Swordsman recovered its posture and slashed out horizontally, while Panga used its overbearing shield to press forward. There was a sneer on Lear's face. Forget the past, he was a different person in the current match. He was aware of what the professors wanted to see from him, and was prepared to show off his skills. Dang! A simple, soaring slash. Panga's self-confidence and pressure on him had drastically reduced. Luo Fei was still smiling happily, while Zhang Shan was rather perplexed. If it was him in the past, he would have blamed the opponent for being too weak. However, he had now understood that Lear had already calculated the opponent's predicted motions, and the angle and timing of his attacks were completely above his opponent's, not allowing the opponent to display any of his own strength. Lear's Storm Swordsman had already slashed out, a basic stab. Crack. Overlord continued retreating, while Lear's Storm Swordsman was considered to be a more mobile type mecha. He closely followed after Overlord and sent slashes one after the other, while Panga's giant shield was only capable of defending, and was gradually being pushed back. Dang dang dang. A continuous explosion rang out. Lear had only used a normal stabbing motion from the start till the end, but the rhythm of each step was not identical. However, they had all landed on the exact same spot. This did not feel like a mecha battle, but was instead more like a fight between swordsmen. Panga was so angry that he was about to spurt blood. He was unable to exert any strength, and couldn't even change his tactics. The opponent's rapid stabs were about to claim his life. However, this was the frightening thing about Arbiter. They were like poisonous snakes, patiently waiting for a chance to strike. It only depended on how long Lear's opponent could last. Boom! Just as Panga calculated, after a critical explosion, he directly pushed against Lear's storm swordsman, and rapidly increased the distance between them. However, an alert from the mech had shocked Panga. The giant shield had been damaged. Panga was stunned, as the opponent had done that deliberately to give him a chance, or else if the assault continued, his defense would not be able to hold. A shield on one hand, and spear in the other, Panga's expression turned serious. On the other end, Lear's storm swordsman was pointing his sword at the ground, not even taking a defensive stance. Jia Yuanhao was filled with envy. This bastard was still pretending at such a juncture, and he was now absolutely on the side of Panga. He couldn't wait for Panga's spear to pierce Lear's heart, while Black Tortoise's Huang grade students broke out in cheers. The Black Tortoise Region's academy was in desperate need of a hero, as if they continued losing, there would be no place to hide themselves any longer. As an arbiter, Panga was aware of the frightening power of physical reinforcement skills, as there were some ancient families that also possessed the same strength. To deal with such powers, it was necessary to defeat them before they were activated. Panga did not have any thoughts that he was bullying the newcomers. When faced with an opponent, one had to use the best method to defeat them. Overlord Engine roared, while at the same time there were cold flashes of light revolving around its body. This was Panga's ability X, Instant Death Blade Dance. Destroying the surrounding space, and turning it into a death zone, everything that entered the dome would be shredded to pieces. This was a point that Zhang Shan was the clearest about. Anyone who attempted to charge into the dead zone would just be seeking death. It could be said that this ability was the jinx of all reinforcement skills. Not only that, this ability was able to integrate both offense and defense. With Overlord pressure, the opponent would not be crushed, but instead sliced into pieces. Overlord had already acted, but Lear was still motionless. Was he seeking death? Panga's ability X was something that Energy Shield would not be able to withstand, or else he would not have the qualifications to enter as a Zon Class 1 expert in White Tiger. This was the Invincible Arbiter. Just as Overlord was about to collide, Storm Swordsman dashed into the Ira. This mech. The power of the 5 elements, this was what Lear had learned at Elite Academy, and the professors who were watching nodded in approval. The Storm Swordsman, due to its unique material composition, was extremely suitable for Ability X users, but only Lear would use such a technique. The eyes of the other spectators widened at the sight. Was this guy courting death? Both mecha exchanged multiple blows in an instant. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions occurred in mid-air, shockwaves exploding outwards, and sparks flew. Boom! A single mech landed on the ground, still holding on to its longsword, while bits and pieces of junk came raining down. Lear's victory. Except for the few professors who were present, the others did not expect this to be the result. A spatial ability X was undoubtedly the most difficult type to crack, especially for something like Panga's. Unless one's ability completely suppressed the other, it would not be possible to penetrate. Watching the slow-motion playback, Panga's Overlord was indeed like a beast, being surrounded by shrapnel in all directions and sealing off the surroundings, not allowing the target to escape. At the same time, the spear in his hand was able to defend against his opponent's desperate attacks. Even if he lost the spear, he would still have his giant shield. However, Lear's choice was a direct offensive, sending his sword towards the sky in an instant and slashing downwards like a missile. It was only then the geniuses had noticed the air currents around Panga, and this was also the reason why Storm Swordsman adopted a swift charge. However, what broke Panga's ability X? When the Storm Swordsman rushed into the opponent's ability X for the kill, there was a strange phenomenon. Panga's ability X faded like a snowflake, and it was attributed to the shock that he was under, as even the Arbiter people would have met with such a situation before. Lear's single strike broke through his opponent's ability X, and when it came to physical skills, Lear was unparalleled, and thus ending in the destruction of the shields and the pilot. At that instant, Zhang Shan was quietly counting. He had slashed a total of 37 times, that madman. All along, Zhang Shan thought that Lear was a nobody, but in truth, maybe he had heard Zhang Shan's muttering. Luo Fei smiled slightly. It was 39 strikes. Zhang Shan was stunned. Although this made no difference to him, the most intimidating thing for him was Lear's ability. It seemed that no one was clear on his ability X. During IG, he had won against Arbiter, but also without any flair, not at all comparable to Olivius. This match was definitely a great boost in morale for the Black Tortoise region, and allowed the professors to recover some color on their faces. Ignoring the Zon grade, it was an even better situation if talents were discovered when they were still in the Huang grade. While it would be great for Lear to proceed even further, this was indeed sufficient. From their perspective, the only issue that could give Lear trouble was the absolute suppression of ability X, and the 4 people who were qualified to cause this absolute suppression were not in the 5th section. Therefore, Lear was very likely to get a spot, which would definitely boost the morale of Black Tortoise. Lear came out with a smile, and proceeded to the audience hall to thank his mentor and classmates. It seemed that no other player had done such a thing. Watching Lear's face filled with smiles, other than bitterly laughing, Zhang Shan was absolutely speechless. This guy really was a sly old fox. How did he even do that? Was he really only a 20-year-old youth? In fact, the youths present were all very proud, whether it was the Zon grade or the Huang grade students. Lear's humility had pleased them, causing the applause to be even louder. The professors were also satisfied. This was a true model student. "Oh, Fatty, where are you going?" Zhang Shan asked. "It's my turn in a while." Luo Fei bitterly laughed, and the sad reminder of his life didn't need to be explained. He had already gone through 2 rounds. Why was the boss still not satisfied? Zhang Shan laughed. Good luck. He did not intend to watch the match. Luo Fei's ability was at about the same level as his. Being able to advance through the 2nd round was already a miracle. There was no hope in the 3rd, but he really had to buckle up, and should no longer underestimate his opponents. In fact, he was hoping that Lear would have a chance to fight with Wang Zheng, but in reality this was not possible. It was absolutely impossible to take advantage of Lear's character, and Zhang Shan was no idiot. On the contrary, his intelligence allowed him to easily understand Lear's intentions, but it was also this that he thought that it was a miracle that Luo Fei was still surviving for this long. However, this miraculous fatty, in just 5 minutes, had defeated his opponent and advanced. Zhang Shan's Skynet sent out a series of question marks. Fatty's answer was very simple. He was lucky, and the other party had diarrhea today. Zhang Shan simply rolled his eyes. This wretched Fatty and Lear was indeed a perfect combination, not even being truthful to him for once. This had really broadened Zhang Shan's horizons. While Zhang Shan was emotionally narrating the situation to Wang Zheng, he was instead not a bit surprised. The rise of the solar system was still too early, but an opportunity had emerged from the younger generation. The 3rd round, 2nd sector, Wang Zheng took to the grade. His opponent was Brother Domon from Aslan, a prideful person. Wang Zheng did not know if he indeed had a brother named Simon, but this person had constantly exuded a sense of superiority. It was no surprise, as rumors had it that Brother Domon had a little royal blood in them, and were distant relatives with the current Aslan royal family. In addition, Brother Domon was young and talented, and was also a celebrity in the Vermilion Bird region. Wang Zheng and Brother Domon entered the preparation time. While he thought that they would enter the match straight away, he had surprisingly received a communications request. Wang Zheng, I know that you are good at physical skills. Hence, this battle I won't be using my ability X, so let's use physical skills to compare our levels, Brother Domon shouted with a trace of contempt. Wang Zheng was speechless. This buddy had some issues. When did he offend him? Ah, I don't really mind, but we aren't that familiar. Bullshit. I only want to tell you that someone like you should distance yourself from the princess, scram as far as you can. Or else I'll leave you wish a fate worse than death. You better start pissing yourself. The voice of Brother Domon became even higher. The outsiders were unaware what the 2 players are talking about, but Wang Zheng's mood was not so good. I don't care if you are Domon or a broken door, if you use your full strength and can last for a minute, it will be your win. In the event that I meet with people from Aslan in the future, I will avoid them by 3 meters, Wang Zheng evilly smiled. HMPF, you will be able to find the stairs down the grade on your own. Let's do it. Brother Domon waved his hand. Even if he had heard the rumors, he was too lazy to deal with such a small fry. What if you lose? Wang Zheng smiled. Brother Domon gave a slight smile and laughed. What do you want? Simple, just run a circle around the academy in the nude, loudly shouting, Brother Domon is a dog, Wang Zheng said. Brother Domon's face instantly changed. You have guts. Wang Zheng did not hesitate and choose the Atlantis A Phantom King. Brother Domon's choice was Aslan's brilliant series, Brilliant Knight. Snowly and the others were firmly in Wang Zheng's camp. The situation of Azure Dragon region was not great. In the era of White Tiger and Zook, they were only a little better than the Black Tortoise region. However, the Huang grade students had actually achieved 2 consecutive victories to progress in the competition, causing Black Tortoise's name to rise again. This was obviously much rarer than in Zon grade advancing, and was something that the other academies could not compete against. Boom! Brilliant Knight's engine started roaring, and at the same time, this guy was just like a defective good. Ability X activate. A wave of icicles spread around the mech. What Phantom King? That illusory trick was useless in front of him. This idiot called Wang Zheng was really no different from a single-cell organism, easily fooled impulsive idiot. The Phantom King's runes flashed, and Wang Zheng had a burning desire in his heart. Some opponents were worthy of respect, while others were guilty as charged, hence he had to thrash them. There were doubts emanating from the audience. The Atlantis mech had already been declared as a mech to boast about one's skills. Even the Zon grade students would not attain good results piloting, yet this Huang grade student still had dared to use it. His ability X was originally already in a weaker position, yet he had still used a rune mech. This was really courting death. Brother Domon's mouth was curled into a smirk. Are you regretting it? This is the habit of a toad. If 1 minute isn't enough, I can give you another minute. If it's still not enough, I can keep adding until you are satisfied, ha ha ha. Wang Zheng sneered a little. He had always been very good at controlling his own strength, but there would always be some fine-tuning, and it had become a bit dull recently. This was a good chance to vent. The frozen wave of the enemy was able to distinguish between a shadow entity and his true body, thus his attacks could not be screened at all. But to Wang Zheng, this was not an important issue. A person with such a mentality, how strong would he be? For the very first time, Wang Zheng's Phantom King attack, he suddenly dashed forward, just as aggressive as a tiger. Phantom King left behind an afterimage, and purple light flashed in all directions. It had absolutely ignored all the ripples of the frozen air, while Brother Domon was quietly waiting with his sword in hand. He had already witnessed Wang Zheng's physical skills, and he was indeed proficient, but the same problem was present, as it was worthless in front of an ability X. Brilliant Knight's shield slammed into the ground, a glacial prison. The ability X exploded outwards, and it was a completely unreasonable solidification of the surroundings. Phantom Kinga was simply looking for death. But at this moment, a blazing flame suddenly enveloped Phantom King. Wang Zheng was not an Atlantean, and did not know how they dealt with the abilities from humans. However, he was indeed a human, and had a way to deal with the problem. Phantom King split into multiple mirages in an instant. The churning purple flames were incomparable to the freezing energy, and instantly eradicated all of the ice. An illusion or the real body? Almost instantaneously, Brother Domon made a quick decision. His shield was swung in the direction of the illusionary body, while he slashed out at the real one. Both Phantom Kings were killed at the same time, but the next instant, a blinding light emitted from both of them. The Phantom King struck by the beam saber emitted a beam of light, while the illusion behind him had suddenly made a rapid turn, its runic sword slashing out. Rumble. Armor fragments flew, and accompanied by the thick water vapor, the Phantom King, which was still burning with a light purple flame, walked out. For Wang Zheng, such a trash was insufficient for him to fully vent. He was an idiot who was completely obsessed with their own ability X, and it was false hope to rely on such skills to advance humanity. The so-called omnipotent power was an illusion, while only real mastery was the truth. The entire hall was also silent. Why was a Huang grade student using the runic mech so beautifully? Why can the runic mech use humanity's ability X? Why was the illusion a real body? Broken door. When you scream later, remember to scream a bit louder. Wang Jung rarely added salt to the wound, but for such a person, it was totally worth it. Brother Domon had already disappeared, and it was obvious that he was not rushing to run nude around the campus, and Wang Jung was too lazy to care. If that Domon really had such courage, Wang Jung might even look up to him. As for this type of person, he was only trash, and Wang Jung was unwilling to waste his time on them. Snow Lee and the others were rushing to express their congratulations to Wang Jung. In particular, Wang Jung had finally used his ability X, even if it was just to offset the freezing ability. It had still played a considerable role, and in addition to Wang Jung's physical skills, there was still much potential. At the very least, the Azure Dragon region also had their own Huang grade student who had advanced into the main competition. At the Starlight Club, Yan Xiaozu was enjoying his time here, but another clique was evidently unhappy. Yan Xiaozu was also one of their minor acquaintances. However, none of them amongst them had did their research. Although they would still give some face to him as he was still Jasper's friend, they were still insulting him privately. However, after coming today, they noticed that the rest had already signed a contract. No matter the issue, it was obvious that they would not be glad. Che, so what? I've already said that Yan Xiaozu was only relying on his connections, and was just bragging every day. Yeah, I'm quite accurate at judging people. He is a merely nobody. Connections. Others were giving face to the earth, and he really treated it as a precious jewel. It was said that he could easily get into contact with Lan Ling, and even the Titan. Some of them were still jealous of the results. Of course, the rumors were not believed by everyone, Chi being one of them. He was the current president and operations executive of Astina EG Group, but it would be difficult for him to talk to Lan Ling, let alone the Titan, the real leader of Tita Star. Chi sneered, the situation has already reached this stage, of course I believe them. Jasper's clique, it seems like they were regressing the longer they mingled together. Hey, speaking to Lan Ling is still possible, but as for the giant Titan, I heard that his Skynet only has 3 numbers. The first was Lan Ling, the second was Mu Sen, and the last was a mysterious person who was newly added. Another rich scion, Wo Jin, smiled. He had done his research on the Titan Raridurai. Other than these 3, he ignored all other news from the Skynet. Hence, Jasper is getting even more muddled. The others were just pretending, and he still fell for that. Don't say that Yan Xiaozu really has some ability. Every time he goes out hunting, there will be giants to protect him. He might have just been faking it. Didn't you see that every time after the hunts, the giants were carrying a load of stuff back to the mountains? Perhaps they were easy to scam. Cough. Gaber had just went to the bathroom, and when he passed by, he coincidentally heard this words, and was uncomfortable with this group of pigheads. Don't talk nonsense. If you really offended the giants, it would not be a joke. Even the mech won't save you. The mountain was indeed closely guarded, and there was specialized armor for the giant. Defeating 1 or 2 mercenaries would not be an issue. Who's spouting nonsense? Instead, you Gaber should be more careful of what you say. Chi faintly glimpsed that the clique of his was drifting even further away from Jasper. Oh, Gaber, that Yan Xiaozu is certainly not reliable. If he had a relation with the Titan, then show me the Titan's contact number of Skynet. Wo Yi intentionally said that, as the giants did not usually use Skynet, as they did not have one suitable for them with their body size. Only the Titan Raridurai was an exception, where the Lan family specially ordered an oversized Skynet for him. Thus, Raridurai only had 3 contacts. Hence, Wo Yi also wanted to confirm if the information was true. The final mystery person would definitely not be a person from a company selling sanitary pads, and who had run over here to act as a wolf. They were all doubtful if this Yan Xiaozu was an actor that Jasper had invited over to deal with them. Gaber was angry too, but he was also a little worried in his heart. More than half of his investment was his personal savings. If it was really as the rumors said. At this moment, he saw Yan Xiaozu walking past them. Watching a whole group of people remaining silent, Yan Xiaozu greeted them, "Gaber, everyone, you're all here. Haha, I'll go outside to make a call." After finishing, he simply walked out. Qi Yi and his group of people laughed even harder. Wu Jin even smiled and provoked, "Gaber, this Yan Xiaozu should not be a liar. Even though your relationship is so good, he has avoided you when making a call. Is something the matter?" Haha. Gaber's face was very gloomy. Humans were all similar, easily having chaotic thoughts. He had even invested his capital into it, and there was a huge difference between his family and his personal wealth. Wu Jin's eyes rapidly spun. "Come Gaber, let's go take a walk outside." Saying that, he directly dragged Gaber out, obviously to listen on Yan Xiaozu's conversation. No matter if it was true or false, the matter would be revealed right now. Far away, Yan Xiaozu was really making a call on Skynet, but the recipient was instead his old man. The situation is probably like that. Xiaozu, such a big business, you are fighting barehanded against a bunch of hungry wolves. Will there be any problems? In case, just in case, our little lucky star really cannot pay for it. Old Yan was a little anxious, the stakes this time were really high. However, Old Yan's, barehanded against a bunch of hungry wolves sentence had startled Gaber. What if? Wu Jin smiled happily, he just knew it. Yan Xiaozu was currently rather distressed, and had not noticed the two tailing behind him. After hanging up on the call, he breathed a deep breath, and started dialing another unique Skynet number. Wu Jin was quietly chiding Gaber. "Gaber, Jasper, that guy is like a specter, and must have been aware of the details on this guy. Now that we have time to withdraw, our clique still welcomes you as the fifth heir of CK. What? Still hesitating? That kind of trash." Wu Jin was pointing towards Yan Xiaozu, and coincidentally raised his head. Yan Xiaozu's Skynet was making a video call, and although the distance was rather far, the image still remained clear. This recipient of this call switched on the screen. Wu Jin's words immediately stuck in his throat. Gaber was startled, and also lifted his head. There was only one eye, and the originally solemn expression rapidly turned into one of joy. On the screen, it was evidently Rara Durai, Tita's spiritual leader, and also the sovereign, the Titan. Yan Xiaozu's voice traveled over at the same time, "Sir Titan. Baha, you are just the same as Ada, just call me Rara Durai will do. Finally, someone called me on my Skynet, this is really a first." Rara Durai was extremely happy, as it was a new experience for him to watch the image of Yan Xiaozu on the screen. So this was the brother that Ada mentioned. He's a little fat, and didn't look too strong. However, this was not an issue. Intellectual strength was also a type of strength, same with wisdom. Haha, okay, Rara Durai, there's something that I need your help with. No problem. I want to start a company, but regarding the location and construction, I may need some help from your giants. No problem. Rara Durai still said the same three words. Yan Xiaozu also had nothing else to say. The giants were indeed efficient, and the Titan was agreeable too. At another corner, Gaber had already left. He had already confirmed with 100% guarantee Yan Xiaozu's identity, and had a direct number to the Titan. What would he be afraid of? He had already called up his family back at home, and wanted to increase the investment sum. An initial investment of 2 billion. I'm sorry, I'll invest 1 billion myself. Wu Jin's face had also changed color. Looking at the shadow of Gaber hurriedly contacting his family, he immediately dashed into the room and toward Jasper, with a face full of smiles. "Jasper, I'm also interested in your investment, count me in too." On the other side, Qi Yi, who was waiting to see the joke, was looking at Wu Jin with a dumbfounded look. What happened? Qi Yi's brain spun, and instantly jumped up. He fully understood Wu Jin's character, he must have seen something outside. "Jasper, if you regard me as a friend, then please don't abandon me." Within a short while, a whole group of people had rushed over, wishing to invest in the company that hadn't even been set up. The group from Little Lucky Star almost knelt in respect. What in the world happened? They had just finalized a 2 billion contract. Why was someone still sending money over? Was it filled with nouveau riche outside of the solar system? At any rate, they were still clueless. From the business standpoint, Little Lucky Star Company's portfolio was completely empty, and even the cover-ups had not been concealed. However, this bunch of people seemed to have eaten the wrong medicine, or not eaten any at all. Yan Xiaozu walked in from the outside, and seeing the bustling atmosphere, he was also rather puzzled. He wasn't a little worried at all, as all the complicated matters would be carried out by the Tita Star, which was related to the Tita's people and the Land family's benefits. Jasper did not understand too, but his businessman's mind made him calm down quickly. The funds in the first phase can no longer be added. In the second phase, everyone is considered a friend. It is nothing that we can't sit down and talk about. Of course, we are all relying on Brother Yan to take care of us. The eyes of everyone are concentrated on Yan Xiaozu. This nouveau riche was indeed surprising. Yan Xiaozu smiled slightly. Everyone, I wish to introduce a friend of mine in a few days' time. Although she will not have a large share in the initial investment, but she will definitely be more useful than me. As for the second wave of financing, it is no longer necessary. Although the more people we have, the stronger we can get, I also wish to maintain the relationship with Jasper. Our people from Earth are concerned about fate, and I also believe in fate. Brother Yan, you're too courteous. Jasper also did not wish for others to join in. They did not lack money, but he was not in a position to refuse them. However, Yan Xiaozu was able to do so. Is it because Miss Yi is coming over? Pila instantly deduced. Yan Xiaozu nodded, and those who were aware understood. The rest were even more perplexed. Who was this Miss Yi? Jasper and the rest could not calm down. This was not because of the mech, but it was the OMG, which was the only one who could acquire supergravity energy mines from Tita Star. This was simply inconceivable. Jasper and others did not introduce the meaning of Miss Yi, and the others were even more anxious to find out. The more mysterious she was, the more reluctant they were in leaving. Each of them refused to budge, and the atmosphere instantly heated up. As for Yan Xiaozu, he was already familiar with this. In fact, dealing with these guys was much easier than making money on Earth. The cash involved could determine the survival or death of a few companies back on Earth, but they treated it as pocket change over here. It was no wonder that everyone wanted to enter into the galactic trade market. Yan Xiaozu hadn't thought that the issue would be blown to such proportion. But after talking with Yi Zissou, he suddenly understood that although it was just a bluff, it was something that they had to do, as this was their only chance to obtain benefits. The opportunity to keep his brothers alive. The chance to remove the stain on their names. Kashan's negotiations was extremely traumatic to Yan Xiaozu. He did not care if others looked down on him, but went ahead with the plan to showcase the persistence of a brother. Honest people generally do not get angry, but once they angered him, he will definitely remember it for a lifetime. Whether if it was Little Lucky Star or OMG, they had already embarked on a course set by Wang Zheng, and there was no turning back. The ideals of Little Lucky Star at inception no longer existed, and Yan Xiaozu was walking down a path as dangerous as Wang Zheng. Elite Academy X, the competition was still in full swing. In the third round, all the participants had some skills, and Olivius naturally progressed easily. However, everyone was surprised that there were still Huang grade students present. All of them had one thing in common, which was that their physical skills and ability X were both rather well developed. The Huang grade students in the final advancement match were Wang Zheng, Olivius, Lear, Achilles, and Luo Fei. Other than Olivius, who was from Arbiter, the remaining four were all from the solar system. As the solar system had been silent for a long time, this was exciting news. In the past, every time the solar system had a minor achievement, there would be books written about it, not to mention the glory of these youths. It was the same for Elite Academy. No one expected that the solar system would have such outstanding achievements. It must be known that the solar system rarely qualified in the preliminaries. Black Tortoise region was also proud of the excellent performance of Lear and Luo Fei. Moreover, these students really did not stumble through due to luck, and every battle had been hard fought, showcasing their strength. This had also brought an adverse impact on the academies that only advocated Ability X. In Elite Academy, fighting skills and physical skills were all auxiliary, and they mainly focused on Ability X to raise their combat power. However, this view had been broken by this group of students, as during battle, their Ability X was more on disruption and defense, the true deadly blow being their physical attacks. The Earthlings long had a saying of combining the human and the machine, but this was not a popular opinion outside. The mech was just a tool, and only needed to be handled properly. Anything else was simply pushing too far, and was a viewpoint of the weak. But now, the general populace might have to adjust their mindset once again. Other than the Huang grade students, there were a few true experts from the 4 academies that had also advanced. There were students who were considered at the top of their class who were eliminated. Others, who were normally low-key and had been training quietly, managed to advance, showcasing their control of their mech and their Ability X. Being loud during normal times was useless. One had to perform well during crucial moments. The 4 top masters, headed by Hydra, were completely overwhelming. They were far stronger than their peers in terms of physical skills, Ability X, combat experience, and vision. It might be a little exaggerated to say that they had the strength of an instructor, but it was still a simple feat for them to teach other students a lesson. In addition, all 4 of them were also the top members in the Ability X ranking list. However, the rankings had yet to reflect Lear's and Olivius's combat strength. Luo Fei had still struggled a little in his advancement match, and thus still required further investigation. Of course, for Fatty, this was something that he did not welcome, and hoped that he would be ignored. He just wanted to follow Lear and survive. The delegation from the Milky Way Military College also entered Roland, but this was not the first time that they had come to visit. Of course, the Elite Academy had visited the Milky Way Military College more than once. It was clear that the uniforms were slightly different. It was said that their uniforms were tailored for space combat, and was filled with the symbols of the squad, hence. No matter how you look at it, their clothing and temperament was above that of the students. Damn, didn't you see that guy, turning his nose up? As if we were a subordinate academy, tisk. Zhang Shan unhappily said. Classmate Zhang, be calm. The Marines have always been like this. At any rate, it isn't known whose position will be higher at the end of the day. Ison said, but it was clear that he was also upset. There were 2 types of students in the military college. One was with a normal family, but their personal ability was excellent, while the other was due to their background. In fact, for them, no matter which option they chose, they would still have a bright future. However, they were still in the minority. Ai Xiaolu and the others were very calm. They had long expected this outcome, and could be considered lucky, as there were very few who could control their own destinies. Coming to Elite Academy, learning was not the most important to her, but it was to meet with someone suitable. She had struggled to choose between both academies, but in the end, she had chosen Elite Academy. The starting point of the Milky Way Military College may be higher, but there was still a higher chance for someone in the Elite Academy to achieve greatness. Being grounded was not actually all bad. Ai Xiaolu gazed at Wang Zheng, while Snowli also looked over, but with a completely different meaning. Aina Aslan had arrived, and there were many that were eagerly awaiting her. Even if they were usually calm on the outside and were able to control their emotions, they might still be unable to suppress the feeling in their hearts. However, Snowli was aware that the man in front of her and the princess had a tangled relationship. Tonight, they had an interaction session between the 2 academies, but the Elite Academy had already far exceeded the quota. Wang Zheng, as a representative of the Huang grade, was a given to participate, while the rest were selected from the Zan grade. Ai Xiaolu's intelligence network was much larger than imagined, and the Aishi consortium is also quite influential within the Union. As an old-fashioned consortium, the first thing they had to master was intelligence. The family had a special intelligence system that collected various kinds of information, even if it was mere gossip. Between Wang Zheng and Aina, Ai Xiaolu's was filled with disbelief. Both of them were separated by a large gap. Even at the level of the Aishi consortium, they had no clout in front of the royal family. Both of them had no chances to get to know each other. It would be too naive that a single IG match would cause Aina to fall in love with Wang Zheng. If the princess really had this level of emotional maturity, then the Aslan Empire might as well change the heir, or give up entirely. Being royalty, the success or failure was far too risky for such a personal relationship. It might have been possible during times of rapid expression, but was far more dangerous in times of peace. However, in this regard, Aslan had been doing rather well. Ai Xiaolu was thinking too much, but the guy involved was rather calm. Wang Zheng couldn't express his feelings, as although he had finally met Aina, he had too many things to say to her, but had no idea how to start. No matter what, being able to see her in person was already a good result. In fact, in Wang Zheng's mind, he only wanted to confirm a single thing. If Aina was doing fine, that would be sufficient for him. Because of this party, the elite academy was extremely lively, and the momentum was unstoppable. The crucial thing was that everyone wanted to witness the elegance of the Aslan princess, the one who was called the #1 beauty in the Milky Way. Zhang Shan thought that Wang Zheng would not go and avoid this embarrassing situation, but after thinking about it, there was nothing wrong with a man going over to watch. Tisk, the princess was also a person, and also a woman. Tisk. However, he could only cheer on Wang Zheng. Although Zhang Shan was very confident, but facing the princess of Aslana, he was afraid he would only be able to see from afar, as the pressure was too great. Although Zhang Shan had met Aina before, but beauty was different in everybody's eyes. However, if Aina claimed the title of the Milky Way's top beauty, not Mei would refute it. Zhang Shan really admired Wang Zheng. While he may look like a piece of wood at times, but sometimes his actions were rather frightening. In the evening, the auditorium of the elite academy was more brilliant than usual. When Wang Zheng arrived, most of the people in the venue had already arrived. The men were usually wearing tuxedo or suits, or costumes with their own planetary features. Everyone chatted in their own groups. Although the topic was on the competition, everyone's thoughts were on the princess, and trying to find out who she was waiting for. Wang Zheng was able to recognize a few people present, like Ling Luoyu, and the person beside him should be Reddington. Reddington had also slaughtered his way to the main competition. There was also another person present that Wang Zheng faintly recalled. He was Ma Guangyuan, who he had met at Ling Luoyu's birthday party, and it seemed that he had entered the Milky Way Military Academy. At this juncture, he was feeling rather awkward. Luckily, there was someone else he was familiar with, Achilles. Wang Zheng. Achilles walked over with a wine glass. The sun god was used to such gatherings, as no matter the place, they were all the same. Achilles, long time no see. Yeah, if we didn't get out of the solar system, we would not have known that the world outside was so wonderful. Achilles faintly smiled, his face a picture of calm. His mental strength was extremely high, and could be considered to be the top within the solar system. If one did not have a strong mindset when mingling with others from the elite academy, they might actually sink into depression. Olivius had also appeared. He had arrived slightly later than Wang Zheng, but he had ignored the rest of the party, instead finding a quiet corner and shut his eyes without a care in the world. Amongst those present, the most eye-catching was definitely the 4 masters of the expert stage. The students in their respective academies all treated them as the center. White tigers Hydra, azure dragons Pampas, vermilion birds as Hakatalan, and black tortoises Hukan. However, Lear and Luo Fei were both standing beside Hukan, and Hukan had even begun introducing Lear to the surrounding people, heaping praise onto him. Wang Zheng and Achilles looked at each other and smiled. They had to agree, Lear's ability to adapt was much stronger than the two of them. The other planets were still stubbornly looking down on the solar system, totally ignoring them, but this Lear was still able to make others look up to him. That was truly a skill. Reddington and Ma Guangyuan were discussing something, causing Ling Luoyu to frown. However, she had still walked over with them in the end. Ma Guangyuan's face had a big smile on it. Junior Wang Zheng, we meet again. Junior. This kid really knew how to greet someone. Wang Zheng felt that after arriving, all of Lear's mockery had been transferred to him, and he couldn't even catch a break. You are. Wang Jung intentionally acted confused, and Ma Guangyuan's face instantly turned a shade darker. Achilles was laughing in his heart. Trying to play such tricks, Earthlings were also an expert at this. Reddington, who was standing by the side, coughed slightly. Guangyuan, it seems that our junior Wang Jung has become even more forgetful. Being able to enter the main competition this time as a Huang grade, he seemed to believe that everyone is beneath him. Ling Luoyu was actually a little uncomfortable, and was not aware why these two were targeting Wang Jung. This was just pointless, as they weren't even acquaintances with him. Wang Jung simply smiled and exclaimed, "Of course not, aren't you two right beside me?" Achilles could not help but smile. "Is there anything we can help you with? We don't seem to be that familiar." "Who are you again?" Reddington's eyebrows twitched. "Achilles, from the moon." Achilles was still smiling, and humbly said. Reddington just coldly snorted. At this time, the venue started to stir. The main event was starting. Under the accompaniment of instructor Zhang Feng, Aina appeared. Although she was only a student, but she was still the princess of Aslan. Although Arbiter's military might was strong, they were still not accepted by many other countries. However, Aslan was different, as their culture was regarded by others as something they should emulate. In diplomacy, Aslan was doing much better than Arbiter. When Aina appeared, she was immediately surrounded by the crowd. Oz and Aurora coolly separated the crowd, keeping a safe distance between them. Fortunately, the people here were quite rational. In fact, at the moment when Aina appeared, Wang Jung had felt it. Looking at her from afar, it had almost been a year. Although Aina did not seem to have changed much, but it still felt different. Her smile was still just as beautiful, just that there was an added air of nobility now. Perhaps he had been starting for too long. In the eyes of the outsiders, Wang Jung seemed to be starstruck. Cough. Wang Jung, you are a member of Elite Academy. Pay attention to your image. Ling Luoyu couldn't help but remind him. Although there were others that had a stunned expression, but there were even more who were enjoying the sight, and were maintaining their courtesy and restraint. But this guy was instead staring like an idiot, and was simply causing the academy to lose face. Being a girl too, Ling Luoyu was confident in herself, but she did not dare to compare herself with the Aslan princess. Such a comparison was indeed uncomfortable. The nobleness and elegance of His Royal Highness Princess had penetrated into the minds of the crowd. This was something that could only be cultivated after generations of royalty. Just by standing there, she was like the brightest star in the Milky Way, and that unique sight was simply unforgettable. Wang Jung did not hear Ling Luoyu at all, and was lost in his own thoughts, back to the first time he saw Aina, that cute and beautiful girl. All along, Wang Jung wished that Aina was in fact not the Aslan princess, but only a normal girl. Would they be happier if that was the case? However, there were no ifs in life. Reddington and Ma Guangyuan had to notice this. Looking at Wang Jung's blank expression, they couldn't help but laugh. Luoyu, don't bother with him. It is a blessing for him to have a chance to see the princess, and will be able to brag for a lifetime when he returns. Ma Guangyuan laughed. I do hope he won't spin a story. Reddington added even more salt, and suddenly found that the two men were speaking the same tongue. Achilles was calm, and did not say anything, while Wang Jung was also woken up by them, with a hint of bitter smile on his face. However, it was not due to them, but Ling Luoyu and the rest had thought that he had realized his own faults. Aina naturally also saw Wang Jung. It was impossible for her not to spot him, but she still had to greet everyone else and maintain her courtesy. Achilles shook his head slightly. As a spectator, he was clear on the situation. Aina was still the princess of Aslan, and was no longer the Aina of the past. The previous her would not be concerned with such things, else she would not have done such crazy stunts during the IG competition. However, Achilles admired the current Aina even more, as her courage was truly worthy of admiration. It was just that this was probably the true Aina. Achilles, who was also born in a historic family, knew this very well. This was something normal, and was not something that one could rebel against. Although romance was a good thing, but it was not a realistic option. He only hoped that Wang Jung would not be influenced. After over 10 minutes, Aina only then started to move, and it seemed like she was intentionally walking over. Ling Luoyu's group hurriedly straightened themselves out, their faces revealing a bright and hypocritical smile. Just as they had said it themselves, they would be able to brag about this for a lifetime. Aina nodded in acknowledgement, signifying that the session had ended. Although Wang Zheng and Aina were only centimeters from each other, but they felt that they were worlds apart. Just a distance of a single step, but it was something impossible for both of them. Oz and Aurora took 2 steps back. They were also aware of the situation, but they were also clear on why the princess was doing this. There were some things that had to be settled by the parties alone. Classmate Wang Zheng, I heard that you had advanced into the main competition. Congratulations, I hope that you can achieve great results. Aina said warmly, but her eyes were firm. Wang Zheng also showed a smile on his face. When Aina started speaking, the situation had already been decided. Wang Zheng was clear, as once he personally heard Aina say that he could rest easy. Her Royal Highness, you are too courteous. It was only due to luck. Wang Zheng said. Aina smiled, and everyone who saw it was dazzled. Reddington and the rest beside him were almost driven to madness. To them, the princess had not even batted an eyelid, yet she spoke that much to Wang Zheng. Why? They had though it would be the end, but the princess had still not finished her conversation. I have a friend called Xiao Shi. She said, she had never regretted meeting you, and that was a wonderful memory that she will cherish forever. Aina's voice was soft, but her gaze still remained firm. Wang Zheng smiled, and nodded his head, while the princess also nodded and left. This situation was something to be remembered. Everything that happened before was just a memory for Aina. In fact, for Wang Zheng, it was also something to be relived about. Achilles patted Wang Zheng's shoulder gently. To be honest, he thought that this would be better for him. Men should have their own goals and ideals, and not lose their way due to a woman. Perhaps the crowd was still jealous that Wang Zheng was able to exchange that many words with the princess, but Wang Zheng's emotions finally calmed down as the distance between them grew larger. Wang Zheng knew that this was a choice made with the two of them, and everyone else in mind. He had thought that he could ignore everything if he was with Aina, but he still cared about Yan Xiaozu, Yi Zissou and the others. If he was selfish to that extent, he would eventually regret it. He could not do it, and Aina also could not do it. Now, this was also a type of release. Wang Zheng finally returned to normal. Just like Aina did, he should face the future. He had many things to do, and also had his own goals. As for what happened in the past, he had not regretted. This was his first love, even if there were not any results. Amongst the crowd, Lear's face always had a modest smile. Only when looking at Wang Zheng, his gaze would sharpen for a moment. When he first watched the scene during IG, he had known about Wang Zheng's biggest flaw. No matter if Wang Zheng was satisfied with the result, or how it turned out, the greatest challenge in his life had begun. Unfortunately, Aina was not willful enough. The method that the princess chose was probably the best way to solve the issue. In this way, such a public statement meant telling the Aslan royal family that everything was over. That was indeed a smart move. The sound of chewing reached his ears. Lear turned around, and that D**MNED fatty was holding food in both hands, his mouth already fully stuffed. Being glared at by Lear, Fatty suddenly froze, and hurriedly gulped down a glass of wine. Cough. Boss, your image, lecture me when we get back. Lear's face was as bright as spring, but Fatty's expression was stormy and dark. He really didn't want to lose weight. The banquet was still in progress. More accurately, the highlight of the show had just begun, but to Wang Zheng, it had already ended. His motive for coming was to find Aina, and he had already met his objective. Although Ai Xiaolu did not enter the main competition, she had still managed to find a way in. All of this may be a minor issue to the uninformed, but Ai Xiaolu understood that it had already ended. Perhaps this would be better for Wang Zheng. Snowli was definitely more suitable for him than Aina. She had done a comprehensive check on Wang Zheng, and found that he was suitable in most aspects. Don't blame her for gossiping, this was only a small habit of hers. As for whether emotions were involved, this was something that had been in debate since the birth of humanity, without any results. Hence, Ai Xiaolu felt that emotions were the most useless of all. In the future, when she finds a companion, it must be one of those that would distance themselves, or even refusing to be married. It was already hard to survive, one had to treat themselves better, why should she torture herself? However, this should be a piece of great news to Snow. As soon as Wang Zheng left the hall, a shadow suddenly jumped out at him, robbery. Wang Zheng laughed. Based on your skills, you still dare to come over and rob me. Zhang Shan started chuckling. Don't be like that, it's hard to make a living nowadays. Still, such an activity doesn't suit people like us. Let me bring you to a good place. There are a few unexpected people waiting for you. Wang Zheng was stunned. Was it Meng Tian that had come? He did not know if she would actually be here in Elite Academy, but he had a feeling that that might be the case. No matter, now that he had to meet Meng Tian, he was even calmer. Alright, seems like I have old friends to visit. Wang Zheng smiled. Zhang Shan exclaimed in joy, bro, I wasn't convinced in the past, but now I totally am. Wang Zheng did not know to laugh or cry. Someone who could convince him would definitely have to be a girl. When they arrived at the place, it turned out to be the entertainment section within the academy. Ordinarily, there were many people relaxing here, but most of them were busily training, and in addition to the banquet, this place was deserted currently. The people over there all share the same disappointment with you. Since there's no competition tomorrow, let's all get drunk today, and vent our sorrows. Zhang Shan excitedly said. Wang Zheng was a little confused. Tisk, what are you trying to do? I'm not at the stage to drown myself in alcohol yet. He knew that Zhang Shan was trying to console him, but Wang Zheng was actually rather calm right now. He knew that Aina did not want to affect him, and after undoing the knot in his heart, although he was still feeling a little down, but he was mostly over it. DMN, don't think so highly about yourself. I don't care what you are thinking, I will definitely go in, and you should too. Zhang Shan ignored his complaints and pushed Wang Zheng in, and at the same time locked the door. You brat, there's no running away. There was already someone waiting in the room, and seeing Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan enter, one of them had a sour face, while the other was like an excited bird. They were indeed old friends. It was Wei Yan and Angela, who had finally been picked up from the Elite Academy. As soon as he entered the door, Zhang Shan immediately threw Wang Zheng aside, and sighed deeply, my dearly respected princess, the Lord has arrived. Now, let me present you all with a song. Wang Zheng was stunned. He had not expected it to be Lin Weiyan. In fact, today's banquet was also her chance to introduce herself, who was about to officially enter Elite Academy. However, she did not favor those types of events, and had directly sneaked out. Additionally, Wang Zheng would probably need to sing his heart out to vent his sorrows. It was only that classmate Wang was no longer bothered by his troubles. It was Zhang Shan that had gained even more, being able to hear Wei Yan's private concert. DMN, this was sufficient to boast for 2 lifetimes. Hence, he had dragged Wang Zheng all the way here. Surprisingly, Zhang Shan's voice was pretty good. Angela also remained silent, but in fact there was no need to, as Her Highness Wei Yan was already feeling a little guilty. She had thought that all of this was caused by her reckless move, but as an outsider, Angela was clear that the current situation was already the best they could hope for. If they were to tangle any longer, there would be even more troubles down the line for Wang Zheng and Aina. However, Wei Yan insisted on coming, and she had no choice but to follow. Even though this was not ideal, but from the point of view of a combatant, Wang Zheng was still worthy of praise. Beautiful sis, do you want to sing together? Zhang Shan had already leaned over. This guy was utterly shameless. However, Angela was no doubt a beautiful lady, and after seeing her beauty, Zhang Shan had also been mesmerized. Angela glared at him. No. Lin Weiyan, who was at the side, pushed Angela. Go, go. Everyone is a friend here. Don't mention anything about your background, you also take a day off. Zhang Shan, Angela's singing voice is pretty good too. Beautiful sis, let little brother here open his eyes. You see how difficult it is for me to come to a big city from a countryside like Earth. How could I return empty-handed? When I graduate in the future, I will have at least something to brag about. It was no doubt that Zhang Shan's sweet words was a little too much to bear for Angela. The people around here were usually reserved or serious, and she had never met such a mischievous person like Zhang Shan. Unable to withstand the pressure, Angela had finally went up to sing. However, what she sung wasn't Lin Weiyan's songs, but was instead Aslan's military songs. Even so, there was a sense of a valiant spirit when she sung, causing Zhang Shan to be absolutely fascinated. What a mature woman, full of femininity. Zhang Shan was rather adept with dealing with women, and had an extremely thick skin. Hence, he had immediately started flattering her, without even giving Angela a chance to speak. Of course, the climax of the night was the performance of Lin Weiyan. This was a top-level performance within the entire Milky Way, and wasn't something that Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan could compete against. However, Lin Weiyan had still invited Wang Zheng to sing a duet with her. Her voice indeed had a special quality, causing Wang Zheng and the rest to be mesmerized. With a living treasure like Zhang Shan present, the atmosphere was undoubtedly lively. The four of them did not party too late. Although the atmosphere was suitable for an overnight party, there were still after all students of elite academy, and should have some self-control. This was even more so for Wang Zheng. He was extremely thankful to Lin Weiyan, and knew that she had always wanted to apologize. However, he had never blamed her for anything. On the contrary, this mischievous brat had also given him many wonderful memories. Zhang Shan accompanied Angela to have a chat, while on the other end, it was clear that Weiyan had something to say to Wang Zheng. Angela studied the person in front of her. Once the party had ended, this wild guy had also instantly calmed down, showing that his previous excitement had been deliberate. Wang Zheng was indeed surrounded with good friends, this Zhang Shan, and there was still Yi Zhisu and Yan Xiaozu, yet even she was unable to guess what these people were thinking. Weiyan, thank you. If there's a day that Aina remembered something, you tell her that she should do what she liked. As for these beautiful memories, I will give her my blessings. Wang Zheng smiled. After listening to your private concert, I can go back and brag about it. Looking at Wang Zheng's smile, Lin Weiyan was also at a loss for words. What Wang Zheng said to her, Aina had also said the same thing, and she had no idea how to pass on the message to him. Watching the quiet Lin Weiyan, Wang Zheng also stroked her blonde hair fondly. Weiyan, from today onwards, that guy called Wang Zheng is just a passerby. You have to become a great Aslan princess. Saying that, Wang Zheng called Zhang Shan over. Wimpy Shan, let's go, I'll treat you to supper. Tisk, you pig head. I've not been a wimp for many years. Zhang Shan hollered. The two men walked away shoulder to shoulder, while Angela silently returned to Lin Weiyan, watching the backs of both of them. She had overheard his final words, and this made her look up to him. Wang Zheng was a person who was responsible and decisive. If it was another person, they might not have acted this quickly. Your Highness, you have done everything you can. The matter is over, Angela respectfully said. Lin Weiyan nodded her head, her beautiful eyes moist with tears. In the end, she was not able to free the burdens of Wang Zheng and her sister. A public conference with the princess had become the hottest topic in Elite Academy, and had even overshadowed the competition itself. Unfortunately, Aina had enrolled in the Milky Way Military College, but the students had received another piece of exciting news. Aslan's second princess, Her Highness Lin Weiyan, will be study at the Elite Academy X for a while. She was originally supposed to appear yesterday night, but due to certain reasons had not managed to make it. However, the admission of Her Highness had been confirmed, and Lin Weiyan will be learning how to control and improve her ability X in Elite Academy. The news about Aslan twin princesses had spread like wildfire. Those students who had been eliminated were all sighing in regret, as this was the best chance to leave a good impression on the princesses. Perhaps they might even manage to capture the princess's heart. Zhang Feng was still undecided about the recent arrangements of the academy, as it was more related to politics. However, as an instructor, he did not want to deal with these things, and he was also unable to interfere. Humans would never be able to isolate themselves, but the atmosphere of the campus had to still be maintained. However, this issue might still be considered to be positive, as it would give the students even more motivation. Only with competition would the students improve. In the 5 major sectors, each of them had 8 participants entering. Everyone was eagerly anticipating the main competition. The competition details had been decided by Zhang Feng. From Zhang Feng's previous character, since the earlier rounds were that normal, the latter round would definitely be different. Just as everyone had guessed, when everyone else were attending their normal classes, the 40 students had been summoned for a wave of medical examinations. Hydra and the rest were extremely calm. The 4 of them did not require such examinations, but they had also figured out Zhang Feng's plan. However, the risk was indeed high this time. After an entire morning of complicated tests, all the students who entered the competition were qualified. They were lined up according to their sectors, and Zhang Feng stood right at the front. He swept his gaze across them, and a trace of a smile appeared on his lips. Being young sure was good, just like a newborn calf, absolutely fearless. I will be explaining the next stage of the competition. This will not be a simple showdown. By entering this main competition, all of you have proven your physical skills and ability X. Elite Academy does not want to only cultivate fighting experts, they are looking for leaders who can lead, and adapt to all unexpected situations. That is what we want. Zhang Feng said. Hence, we will be going to an interesting place for the main competition. I believe that some of you are already aware, some of you might have already been there. Yes, it is the Abyss. Everyone started whispering. It was obvious that all of them had heard about that mysterious yet dangerous place. It was said that the requirement for ability X was extremely high, and physical skills was less effective there. It seemed like that bunch from the solar system would be miserable this time round, as their physical skills were superior to their ability X, but it would not be able to cause enough damage in the Abyss. You all may choose any mech you wish. The goal is to survive for 1 month. If you survive till the end, you will be qualified to show your strength in front of the teachers and students of both academies, and earn your own glory. Zhang Feng's voice raised even higher, stirring the hearts of those present. Without a doubt, not only will the dean of both academies arrive, the 2 princesses of the Aslan Empire will also be here. They are still unmarried, so you should seize this opportunity to perform. Although Zhang Feng said it as a joke, there were quite a few who were affected by it. Many of them already had the qualifications, all they need was to attract the princess's attention. At the same time, they would also be able to attract the attention of the dean. The deans of Elite Academy and Military College were also generals in the Union Command within the Milky Way. Due to the large number of students, the prestige was rather high. Instructor Zhang Feng, are there no rules, as long as you survive for a month? Someone asked. Zhang Feng smiled. Yes, the place where you will be placed is at the periphery of the Abyss, but as long as you enter the Abyss, there is no safe place. Moreover, once you are in danger, the emergency rescue will take at least half an hour to arrive. The Zan grade students already have a grasp on the dangers within the Abyss, and the Huang grade students should quickly use their time to familiarize themselves. Any other questions? Those that were able to enter the main competition had full confidence in themselves. So what if it was the Abyss? However, only Hydra and the others were mentally prepared. They had already followed the troops to battle within the Abyss, even if it was only as a support role. That's right, even with their skills, they were only the supporters. At the periphery of the Abyss, the Milky Way Military Command had been continuously attacking, and fortifying themselves at the same time. On one hand, it was to reduce the numbers of the Zerg, while also protecting the mining area. The students from Elite Academy understood the situation and had begun their trials near the edge of the battlefield. The periphery of the Abyss was already a human-controlled area, but the Zerg were still streaming out, just that there were no high-tiered Zerg around. The further in one went, the tier of the Zerg rapidly increased, and had greater strength, but this was not enough to deter humanity. The stronger they were, the more desire they had to explore, but there was always a risk. The Abyss contained something that all humans desired, and the deeper the depth, the higher the purity. This kind of mineral deposit was something that was essential in the development of human science and technology, and was considered to be a top secret. It involved the improvement of human-specific rune-type mecha and other weapons, and had been completely monopolized by the Union. The mineral was even rarer than the supergravity ore, and in the hands of the Milky Way Union, it was the safest way to establish themselves. After Zhang Feng's explanation was over, the rest of the time was preparation time. Farewells had been said, and each student was told to choose a mech. This was the key to their survival. In the abyss, food and water was still plentiful. The important issue was not to be surrounded by the Zerg and fall into a trap. They had to understand that the rescue squad would not be something that they could rely on. Even if they were the strongest 40 in the Huang and Zan grades, they still had to be mentally prepared. What the others were thinking, Wang Zheng did not know. However, he was looking forward to it, as it was a chance for him to put aside his thoughts. As for these Abyss Zerg, Wang Zheng had been curious about them for a long time. Although he had learned quite a bit from Butcher, he did not have the chance to apply it in combat. According to his data, once they were out of the abyss, the strength of the Zerg would greatly weaken, but they were definitely wilder and fiercer within it. When he thought about it, Wang Zheng was indeed a little excited. Zhang Shan was extremely envious of him. He had dearly wished to train himself in such a place. He had already inquired about it. The abyss would cause a constant drain on one's mental strength, which meant that it would greatly strengthen one's self-recovery strength, and was definitely a great place to train one's ability X. What a pity that he could not go. However, it was also a good thing for him, as with Zhang Shan's current capabilities, he might just become a punching bag for the Zerg. Wang Zheng chose the Golden Wheel Battle King. No matter if the bugs were outside or in the abyss, if there were a few of them, then he would just destroy everything. If there were many of them, he would not be able to run anyway, and even the Wind God would be useless. Hence, he gave the Golden Wheel Battle King a go. He had begun to favor this Manalasuo's mech, and was also proficient in using its ultimate attack. Against the enemy, there was only a single word to fight. The transport ship took off. The entrance to the abyss was in Roland, and everyone had already entered into their own mecha. Next, they would be randomly placed in various positions on the edge of the abyss. However, they were unable to perceive the true entrance of the abyss, nor the method used to enter. The only difference was that they would feel a kind of pressure pressing down on them, resulting in them needing to concentrate to alleviate it. On the main screen of the monitoring room, Zhang Feng and a group of technicians were observing the above data. A list of physical conditions and mech conditions for the 40 students had been displayed. The other information will be used to analyze the performance of this 40 students in their future battles, and to compare them with their past statistics. As for Hydra and the others, Zhang Feng was already familiar with them. These 4 were the focus of the academy, and there was no doubt that they had lived up to their expectations. It was predicted that they would be able to rise to the Earth grade within the next year. Among the next batch of potentials, there were a few good seedlings in the Zan grade, but it had not yet met Zhang Feng's standards. This was not directly related to their current strength and weaknesses, but was mainly because of their potential. On the other hand, he had more hope in the new students. There was no need to say anything more about Olivius. This kid was indeed a typical representative of the Arbiter, Brahman. He was not inferior to his elder brother, and even had the potential to exceed expectations. What made Zhang Feng more surprised was the collective rise of the solar system. Wang Zheng, Achilles, and Lear, this 3 of them were pretty decent, especially Achilles and Lear. They initially may have been neglected, but now that they were unearthed, had physical skills comparable to Wang Zheng, and their ability X was even more powerful. Such minute details and familiarity was something that had been trained from a young age, while Wang Zheng's usage of ability X was too rough, unlike the students of Elite Academy X. Even though the match with Phantom King had used his flame ability X, but in the eyes of an expert like Zhang Feng, it was quite disappointing. Having such great spiritual power, yet only able to use it till this stage, this could be considered as a waste. Yet in this aspect of usage, the master could only show them the door. If they could not make any progress by themselves, that meant that they were lacking in certain aspects. Physical skills and ability X could only be combined to a certain extent. There were limited chances to rise up, without even mentioning reaching the level of Hydra and the rest. Wang Zheng's physical abilities and combat experience may be slightly ahead of the rest, but his potential was still too low. Zhang Feng was also balancing things out in his mind. This kid had just given him a great surprise, but his strengths were still too unclear. It was quite the pity, but Zhang Feng decided that he would just observe him for now. Although the monitoring room was not able to see the specific situation of the pilot, but they could still observe them through the information of their physical conditions and mech status. Once the two data points had fallen into a dangerous situation, even if the student had not sent an emergency signal, they would still send out the rescue troops. This had not been told to the youths, as they had wanted them to experience the dangers firsthand. Of course, Hakatalan, Hydra and the others should already be aware of this, but the opportunity for training would still be as effective. This allowed them to have their own freedom, instead of tagging along with the troops. Only those that had seen the bigger would not be arrogant at this stage. After entering the abyss, all the spacecraft's energy shields were covered with a strange pink color. The sky was also of the same color, as if it had been dyed in fresh blood. On the other hand, the ground was instead shrouded in an ink-like darkness, with few plants and minerals scattered across the landscape, and were even occasionally moving about. There was a feeling that the doomsday had arrived. This was the first impression that the abyss gave out. All students, please take note. We are about to launch. Please keep in mind the various requirements, and follow the instructions given. A sound rang out from the system, and everyone had a different reaction. Most of them were eager to test out their strength, especially for those who had never been on the battlefield. After entering the abyss, the transport planes headed in different directions for a long period of time, before the mecha were finally deployed. There might be one or two mech that may meet each other within this month. A small-scale cooperation would decrease the difficulty of survival, but this would also lose them a chance to train. It was hoped that this independent survival opportunity would allow them a comprehensive observation of the personal abilities of these students. Sir, should we turn on the video monitoring? One staff member asked. Zhang Feng shook his head. Unless there is a problem with the data, do not switch it on. All these youths were considered experts, and may be able to sense that they were being monitored. This would only inconvenience them. At this time, Elite Academy had resumed its normal curriculum. The official finals would only be held 1 month later. Therefore, everyone's attention had been on the two princesses and the visiting group from the Milky Way Military College. They would be staying in Elite Academy for a month as exchange students, immersing in the atmosphere here. Wherever the two princesses went, they were the most popular targets, but they were always protected by their bodyguards. Of course, these guards paid great attention to distance them from the rest of the students. Aina and Lin Weiyan did not wish for this, but the enthusiasm of their guards were far too high. Meng Tian had also arrived in Roland with the delegation, but she had never revealed herself, which may be for the best. She had made the difficult choice of choosing not to meet with Wang Zheng, as she was unsure of what attitude she would have in front of him. In this aspect, Meng Tian was also a rookie, and had basically chosen to escape. The fortunate thing was that Wang Zheng was undergoing the 1-month trial, which allowed Meng Tian to enjoy herself in Elite Academy. She might not have many friends at the Milky Way Military Academy, but there were quite a few familiar faces here. Lai Xin, Lai Guang, Zhang Shan, Milo and the rest had gladly welcomed her in. This was a true reunion, and both her eyes were filled with tears. Being separated by God knows how many light years, it was indeed difficult to meet them. As time went by, everyone's rate and direction of improvement was different. There were those that they would never again see in their lifetimes. It was only when they were alone in a foreign country would they have such emotions. Amongst them, there were actually quite a few who had already dropped out. This was also the reason why Lai Xin was frustrated with her defeat this time. She was an extremely strong woman, and although Achilles and the others had successfully advanced, she had failed to do so. Despite this, she was still filled with determination. As for the Aslan princess and whatnot, they both belonged in different worlds. Everyone had learned a lot about the issues at Milky Way Military College from Meng Tian. Although Meng Tian usually did not talk much, but meeting with old friends, she had put aside her usual frosty demeanor. Everyone in the academy was evidently enjoying themselves. As for Wang Zheng, he had already arrived and immediately rushed outside. Wang Zheng knew more about the abyss than the average person. Humans could survive in the abyss, just that the pressure was greater, and was not suitable in the long run. However, he had the primordial regression technique, which allowed him to slowly adapt to such an environment. This was the frightening thing about the technique. As long as it was not absolutely impossible to survive, this technique would be able to change one's body state and adapt.